All right, let's continue. Okay, cylinder one. I go about halfway. I'm going to use the micrometer. Sorry, so I got 3.7795. And that's in the vertical position. Next, I'm going to check the horizontal position. I go about halfway again. Measure again. See, this one's at 3.772. Now, next cylinder, 3. Now be mindful, I also have, there is oil in here. Clean engine oil is in here in the cylinders, but that shouldn't really make that much of a difference. Three points. 3.773. Now horizontal. Oh, and same thing, I did clean the cylinders before I did this, so meaning I wiped it down. $3.7765. 77. Sorry. $3.773. So be mindful, I did some measurements just on the ends with the regular micrometer at one point without using these tools. And I'm going to be honest, the numbers are off by quite a bit. And I'll show you in a minute here. .775. .778. .775. Sorry, 7775. Okay, so I'm going to kind of show you. So on these, they've got a locking pin. So you can release that and it extends it out. So when I put it in the bore, these are spring loaded, they adjust, and then I tighten them. And then when I try and make sure that they are flat against the cylinder itself and then centered in the cylinder. That allows me to take a somewhat accurate measurement. And then obviously I've got the micrometer set and stuff too, and I'll be taking measurements similarly with that, as well as using the dial bore gauge. So far I can see obviously these cylinders are not necessarily fully round, which I'm not doing a high performance motor, so it's not as critical. It's just a stock motor for the truck, which is fine. But I'd like to gauge as to where I'm at. I will be building a high performance motor, obviously for the Camaro that's there. So that's when it's going to be a little bit more critical. So now I can go ahead and I can technically do this again with the this micrometer as well. So I set up this micrometer already to 4 inches. Now, obviously, it's going to be not quite 4 inches. It's going to be 3.77. That's another reason why I had kind of done that, was to see kind of where I'm at, so I can set up this micrometer for it. So 2,000. Okay, right now I got it locked at 3.8. Yeah, 3.8. So, do it again. We'll start with cylinder number 1. Sorry, 2. Check the vertical. So that one should be at about 3.78. So now I'll use the micrometer. So I already know I'm at 3.8. So now I'm going to go 20 thou. That was 3.75. Let's try this. I gotta double check that because let's get it to 8. Okay, 3.8. Sorry, I think it kind of pushed it in. Okay, we're at 3.8. Go back to 3.8. 20. Basically 20 thou. So it was a 3.8. Subtract. So I gotta double check. Lock that. All right, so we're at 3.775 plus 6 is 7.8. So 775, so it's 778. 81. So we're at 7781. So that was cylinder 2. So that was 3.7781 is where we're at. So 7781. Okay, perfect. So that's not bad considering with the other micrometer, I was at 3.78 on that. So now we'll check the other side and see what that one's at. I'm going to go back to same measurement before, which was 3.8. Again, halfway down. We'll check this one. We're at the exact same. So we're at 3.7781 again. Again, bring it back to 0. Check cylinder number 4. Once again, about halfway down. Sorry, I'm trying to make this perfectly centered here, so I get as accurate reading as I can. See, this one is... This one's at 3.780. Now we'll do the horizontal for cylinder number 4. Ah. See? Alright, now that one. Same thing. Yeah. So 3.780. I'm just going to go through each cylinder. That way I have accurate measurement. Then I'll be using the dial bore gauge afterwards. I already know that the cylinders are obviously not going to be perfectly round, but that's the best I can do. So let's do the cylinder number 6. Oh, 3.775 plus 4. So 3. So I got 3.779. That means that those other ones are. Okay, so sorry. The last ones for cylinder 4 were actually 778. So 3.778. And then this one was just 3.779. Now we'll do the horizontal. Okay. Same thing. 3.779. So I know you guys might be wondering cylinder number if you're new to this. Driver's side is always in the GM is always 1357 on the driver's side, and then the passenger side is always 2, 4, 6, and 8. So cylinder number 8 is 3.775. Do the horizontal. Okay. And 3.77. I go with 751. Oh, sorry. Sorry, 791. So this is kind of showing me that where it's at. So I believe factory there's supposed to be 3.78 for the bore. So this is showing me that it's got a little bit. It's a little bit under, which is fine. It's still within tolerance. So actually, what was it supposed to be factory? I'm trying to remember. I wrote it down here somewhere. Yeah, it's supposed to be 3.78. So we're still within spec. All right, now we're gonna double check 1, 3, 5, and 7. So I got 3. 3.81. Oh, sorry, 3.781. 3.7811, but 3.7811 on that one. And I've got your point. And I got 3.759 again. Sorry. 3.77. 779. So we'll check cylinder 3. Okay. At 3 points. I'm at 3.77. Sorry, 78. 3.78. 3.78. Three point seven. 3.779. So we're at 3.78. Let's go 3.78. Three point seven. Let's go 8.1. So 779. 3.779. 3.779. That was cylinder 5. 3.781. Yeah, 781. That's 3.78. $3.779. All right, so that's for the cylinders. So now, that away. So now that I have a base as to where it is, so I've got, so for each cylinder, I've got a base. So now I can check with the dial bore gauge to see how far off it is. So let's go to cylinder number 1. Yeah, let's do cylinder number 1 first. Fortunately, they didn't label them on the sizes on these. So maybe what I can do is I can figure out the sizes on these and go from there. Okay, so that's one. Sorry, I'm just trying to set up the bore gauge right now. Okay. Okay, I've got the dot bore gauge. So now it's not enough. Alright. Kind of thought so. There we go. Okay. All right. So now I got that set up. Okay, it's at 0. Okay, we're going to do the vertical. So we're in the center. About 8,000. Yeah, let's get this to, that's cylinder one. That's cylinder one. Cylinder one, I've got it at 3.781. So let's get that to 3.781. Okay, 3.781. Now I'm going to zero this. Shit. Okay. Now I'm going to see how many thousandths it is off from the top. So that's showing me I'm oversized at the bottom. So I'm only off by about, I'm averaging about 1,000 from where the actual bore I measured. So that'll be at 0. So that one there is 3 thousandths. And that says 1,000. It's a thousandths. Thousandths. So I'm between 1 thousandths and 2 thousandths max on that cylinder. Sorry, that was cylinder 1. So now let's look at the next one. So that was 3 point. Let's go 3.779 on that one. Right there. Okay. Okay. That one's set up. So again, vertically I'm only at max 2 thousandths. Same thing here with horizontally. So again, max 2 thousandths. So 1 thousandths to 2 thousandths. .781. What is this? 3 point. Oh, it should be the same. It's okay. It can be the same. Okay. This one's going around 3 thousandths. 2 thousandths. So once again, number 5 cylinder, I'm looking at about 1 thousandths to the max of 2 thousandths, or sorry, 3 thousandths. Now cylinder number 7. So I had problems with that cylinder at one point. Okay, that's good. So I'm just adjusting this to the measurements I took earlier. That way I can see so 2 thousandths on that one. Between 1 thousandths and 2 thousandths. Okay, well, let's look at cylinder number 2. 3.7. Okay. Okay. There we go. So this is cylinder number 2. This one's 1 thousandth. That's it. It was 1 thousandth all the way in the few spots I checked. Okay, cylinder number 4. That's the same measurement. So I can check with the same. That's less than a thousandth. So that's between 0 and 1,000. Adjust this one a little bit. Okay. Cylinder number 6. So that one's between 1,000ths and 2,000ths. Number 8. Okay. Yeah, no, that should be fine. That's the same one. Okay. Number 8. All right, that one's 1,000ths. The 2,000ths. All right, I'll explain this here in a second. I'm just putting the tools away. All right, let's kind of try this. So these are some measurements that I got. So first one was just using the telescopic gauge and using the digital micrometer. Next, I used the actual micrometer, where I checked it again for the actual side with the telescopic gauge. And then I used the dial bore gauge. So the dial bore gauge, I went through the entire cylinder, and that's where you got the difference of like the thousandths and the 10,000ths and stuff. Obviously I didn't get 10,000ths, but I got the thousandths. So with the micrometer, obviously I can get the thousandths, 10,000ths, and all that measurement as well. So we're looking actually relatively good for that. That allows me to understand that these cylinders are actually not too bad. They're not too bad all around, which is pretty, especially for that tired of an engine. Now, I know a few people might ask about the actual micrometer set and stuff and calibration and stuff. These do come calibrated. I did check as well when I did check before using it. So, and believe it or not, with this micrometer, when I did check it, it was off by 1,000. So this, with the dial bore gauge, basically proves that the measurements are correct. because it was off by a thousand. That allows me to understand that it's actually more accurate than thought, or I would somewhat measures, because it's close. It's good. It's good enough for, and like considering how much of a workhorse this truck has been for the 478,000 kilometers, I'm actually quite happy with the results of that. I did regular oil changes on it every 5,000 kilometers. Very rarely did I go to 6,000 kilometers. I did use synthetic for the longest time until I started having some oil issues, like spark plugs were getting some oil. The reason why the spark plugs were getting some oil, I found out later on, was because it was getting sucked up into the intake, because the intake was missing a bolt on the intake. And I had a small oil leak that they're common in the LSs with the oil pressure sensor. And so that oil was actually going in from the oil pressure sensor and it was going into the intake and fouling up the plug. After I had found that and I had fixed that, then I never had the issue with the fouling of the plugs. Also, at about, I'd say close to 300,000 kilometers, I did have an issue with one of the cylinder heads. Now, the shop that did the work, they didn't necessarily tell me what was wrong with the engine itself. However, they did find that cylinder number 7 had welded on basically the valves were welded to the cylinder head. So they sent off the cylinder head, got the cylinder head rebuilt and fixed, and then replaced and fixed all that. I believe at that time, that was when the intake itself, the bolt was missing out of the intake and causing the actual fouling of the plug, the oil of the plug. Other than that, this engine's been very good to me, and like I say, I'm going to be rebuilding it and making sure that it's will go for another 478,000 kilometers. So that is part of that. It's just take your time. For me, I did this for quite a few years. I did have, like, some of the stuff is a little bit second nature, I guess, because I did do it for years. However, I haven't done it for many, many years. So I'm still learning, as always. For the longest time, I wasn't comfortable doing these kinds of engines because I've never worked on like newer style engines. However, as soon as I had started taking apart this engine and the other engine that I've got for the Camaro, I actually started becoming more comfortable because everything was coming back to me. Because I did it for many years. Probably about, I'd say about 8 years. 8 years of experience working as a mechanic, helping, doing all sorts of stuff. Also with family, many years ago, at the racetrack, always watching, helping as much as I could, even though obviously I was younger. I didn't, as a little child, I didn't do quite the same amount of stuff in comparison. So, which is fine. Now I'm working on my own stuff and trying my best to have some fun and go back to what I love doing. So it's this is just something I love and enjoy doing and learning, and hopefully you guys enjoy learning with me. So appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good day.